In this world of ours, we've been taught from a young age that kindness is a virtue. And it is. But like any virtue, when misapplied or overused, it can become a vice. We've been conditioned to believe that being kind to everyone all the time is the right thing to do. But I'm here to tell you that this blanket approach to kindness isn't serving you, and it certainly isn't serving the world. Now, let's get something straight right off the bat. I'm not advocating for unkindness or cruelty. Far from it. What I'm advocating for is discernment, wisdom, and a higher form of kindness, one that truly serves both you and others in the long run. Think about it for a moment. How many times have you been kind to someone who didn't appreciate it? How many times have you bent over backward for people who took advantage of your good nature? How often have you sacrificed your own well-being in the name of being kind to others? You see, when we're indiscriminately kind to everyone, we're not really being kind at all. We're being naive. We're being pushovers. And in many cases, we're enabling behaviors and attitudes that are harmful both to ourselves and to the very people we're trying to be kind to. Let me give you an example. Imagine you have a friend who's constantly asking for favors. They need money, they need rides, they need you to cover for them at work. And because you're a kind person, you oblige. You help them out time and time again. But are you really helping them? Are you enabling their dependency? Are you giving them the opportunity to grow and become self-reliant? Or are you stunning their personal growth by always being there to bail them out? This is what I mean when I say we need to stop being kind to everyone. We need to start being wise with our kindness. We need to understand that sometimes the kindest thing we can do for someone is to say no. To let them face the consequences of their actions. To allow them to experience the discomfort that leads to growth. Now, I can already hear some of you thinking, but Jim, isn't that cruel? Isn't that selfish? And to that, I say, absolutely not. In fact, it's the opposite, the highest form of kindness, because it's rooted in a genuine desire to see others grow and succeed. You see, true kindness isn't about making people feel good in the moment. It's about doing what's best for them in the long run. And sometimes what's best for someone isn't what feels good. Sometimes it's what feels uncomfortable, challenging, even painful. Think about a parent who always gives in to their child's demands, who never says no, who never sets boundaries. Is that parent being kind? Or are they setting their child up for a life of disappointment and frustration when the real world doesn't cater to their every whim? The same principle applies in all our relationships, personal, professional, and even casual interactions with strangers. When we're indiscriminately kind, we're not really being kind at all. We're being weak. We're avoiding conflict. We're prioritizing short-term comfort over long-term growth and well-being. Now, I want you to understand something very important. This isn't about becoming cold or uncaring. It's about becoming discerning. It's about developing the wisdom to know when kindness is truly called for and when it's merely a crutch for you or for others. Let's talk about kindness in the workplace for a moment. How many of you have worked with someone who wasn't pulling their weight? Someone who was constantly making mistakes, missing deadlines, or producing subpar work? And how many of you, in the name of kindness, covered for that person? Did their work for them? Made excuses for them? I'll tell you what happens in those situations. That person never improves. They never learn. They never grow. And you end up overworked, stressed, and resentful. Is that kindness? I say it's not. True kindness in that situation would be to have an honest conversation with that person, to hold them accountable, to give them the opportunity to rise to the challenge and improve. You see, when we stop being kind to everyone, we create space for something much more powerful, respect. Respect for ourselves, respect for others, and respect for the truth. When we're selective with our kindness, we send a powerful message. We say, I value myself. I value my time, my energy, my resources, and I expect you to value them too. We set a standard for how we want to be treated. And here's the amazing thing. When we do that, the people around us rise to meet that standard. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, but Jim, isn't that selfish? Shouldn't we be selfless? And to that, I say absolutely not. Being selfish and having self-respect are two very different things. In fact, I'd argue that you can't truly be kind to others until you've learned to be kind to yourself. Think about it. If you're constantly depleting yourself in the name of kindness to others, what are you left with? An empty cup. And you can't pour from an empty cup, my friends. You can't give what you don't have. This is why it's so crucial to stop being kind to everyone. Because when you do, you start being kind to the most important person in your life, yourself. And when you're kind to yourself, when you respect yourself, when you set boundaries and standards for how you'll be treated, you create a wellspring of genuine kindness that can truly benefit others. Let me tell you a story. Years ago, I had a client who was struggling in his business. He was working 80-hour weeks, barely making ends meet, and he was miserable. When I looked at his business model, I quickly saw the problem. He was undercharging for his services, taking on clients who couldn't afford him, and bending over backward to accommodate every request, no matter how unreasonable. When I asked him why he was doing this, he said, "I'm just trying to be kind. I want to help people." But here's the thing, he wasn't helping anyone. His clients weren't getting the best of him because he was stretched too thin. He wasn't able to invest in improving his skills or his business because he was barely surviving. And he was setting a terrible example for his children, showing them that it's okay to be taken advantage of in the name of kindness. So I gave him some tough love. I told him to stop being kind to everyone. I told him to raise his prices, to be selective with his clients, and to start valuing his time and expertise. And you know what happened? His business flourished. He started working with clients who truly valued his services. He had time to improve his skills and expand his offerings. And most importantly, he was happier. He was able to be truly kind to himself, to his family, and to the clients who genuinely appreciated his work. This is what happens when we stop being kind to everyone. We create space for true kindness, the kind that comes from a place of abundance, not scarcity. The kind that uplifts both the giver and the receiver. Now, I want to be clear about something. This doesn't mean we should never be kind to strangers or people we don't know well. Random acts of kindness can be beautiful things, but even then we need to be discerning. We need to ask ourselves, is this act of kindness truly helpful? Or am I just doing it to feel good about myself? Because here's the truth, folks. A lot of what we call kindness is really just about making ourselves feel good. It's about avoiding discomfort. It's about maintaining an image of ourselves as nice people. But true kindness, the kind that really makes a difference in the world, isn't always comfortable. It isn't always nice. Sometimes it's downright difficult. True kindness is telling a friend the truth, even when it's painful. It's holding someone accountable, even when it's easier to let things slide. It's saying no to someone's request, even when you know they'll be disappointed. Because in the long run, these acts of unkindness are the most kind things you can do. Let's talk about relationships for a moment. How many of you have stayed in a relationship that wasn't serving you, simply because you didn't want to hurt the other person? How many of you have bitten your tongue, swallowed your feelings, put up with behavior that was disrespectful or hurtful, all in the name of being kind? I'll tell you what that is. It's not kindness. It's cowardice. It's a betrayal, not just of yourself, but of the other person too. Because when you do that, you're denying both of you the opportunity for growth. You're denying both of you the chance to find a relationship that truly fulfills you. You're settling for less, and you're teaching the other person that it's okay to treat you with less than the respect you deserve. True kindness in relationships is about honesty. It's about setting clear boundaries. It's about having the courage to walk away when a relationship isn't working, even if it hurts in the short term. Because in the long run, that's the kindest thing you can do for yourself and for the other person. Now, let's talk about kindness in parenting. This is an area where indiscriminate kindness can be particularly damaging. How many parents, in an attempt to be kind, shield their children from all discomfort? How many give in to every demand, solve every problem, smooth over every obstacle? I'll tell you what happens to those children. They grow up unprepared for the real world. They grow up without resilience, without problem-solving skills, without the ability to handle disappointment or failure. Is that kindness? I say it's not. It's a disservice. True kindness in parenting is about preparing your children for the real world. It's about allowing them to experience disappointment, to face challenges, to solve their own problems. It's about teaching them the value of hard work, of perseverance, of delayed gratification. Yes, it's harder in the short term. Yes, it might feel unkind in the moment, But in the long run, it's the greatest kindness you can show your children. Now, I want to address something that might be on some of your minds. You might be thinking, but Jim, doesn't the world need more kindness? Aren't there already too many unkind people out there? And to that, I say, yes, the world does need more kindness. But it needs the right kind of kindness. It needs kindness that's rooted in wisdom and discernment and a genuine desire to uplift and empower others. You see, when we stop being kind to everyone, we create space for a higher form of kindness. We create space for kindness that's based on respect, respect for ourselves and respect for others. We create space for kindness that challenges people to grow, to improve, to become the best versions of themselves. Think about the people who've had the biggest positive impact on your life. Were they the ones who were always nice to you, who always agreed with you, who never challenged you? Or were they the ones who pushed you, who challenged you, who sometimes told you things you didn't want to hear but needed to hear? I'll bet it was the latter, because those people, the ones who weren't afraid to be unkind in the moment, were showing you the highest form of kindness. They were believing in your potential. They were respecting you enough to tell you the truth. They were caring enough about your long-term well-being to risk short-term discomfort. That's the kind of kindness we need more of in this world. And that's the kind of kindness you can cultivate when you stop being kind to everyone. Now, I want to talk about kindness in the context of personal growth and achievement. How many of you have dreams, goals, ambitions that you haven't pursued because you're too busy being kind to everyone else? How many of you have put your own needs, your own growth, your own success on the back burner because you're always prioritizing others? I'll tell you what that is. It's not kindness, it's self-sabotage. And it's not just hurting you, it's hurting everyone around you. Because when you don't pursue your potential, when you don't strive for excellence, when you don't become the best version of yourself, you're depriving the world of your unique gifts and talents. True kindness isn't about sacrificing yourself on the altar of other people's needs and wants. It's about becoming the best version of yourself so that you have more to give. It's about pursuing excellence in your chosen field so that you can make a bigger impact. It's about taking care of yourself so that you have the energy and resources to truly help others. Think about it. Who can do more good in the world? Someone who's constantly burnt out, stressed, and unfulfilled because they're always putting others first. Or someone who's energized, passionate, and successful because they've invested in their own growth and well-being. The answer is clear. When you stop being kind to everyone, when you start prioritizing your own growth and success, you actually increase your capacity for true kindness. You become a beacon of inspiration for others. You create wealth and resources that you can use to make a real difference. You develop skills and knowledge that you can use to uplift others. This is why it's so crucial to stop being kind to everyone. Because when you do, you create space for a higher purpose. You create space for achievement, for excellence, for making a real impact in the world. Now, let's talk about kindness in the context of social interactions and relationships. How many of you have stayed in toxic friendships because you didn't want to be unkind? How many of you have tolerated disrespect, drama, or negativity because you thought that's what good friends do? I'll tell you what that is. It's not kindness, it's a lack of self-respect. And it's not just hurting you, it's enabling behavior that's harmful to everyone involved. When you tolerate toxicity in your relationships, you're sending a message that it's acceptable. You're allowing negative patterns to continue and grow. True kindness in relationships is about setting healthy boundaries. It's about having the courage to walk away from relationships that don't serve you. It's about surrounding yourself with people who inspire you, challenge you, and bring out the best in you. And yes, sometimes that means being unkind in the short term by ending a friendship or distancing yourself from someone who's not good for you. But here's the thing, when you do that, when you curate your relationships with discernment and self-respect, you create space for truly meaningful connections. You attract people who value you, who respect you, who inspire you to grow. And those relationships, those deep, authentic connections, are far more valuable than 100 shallow friendships based on misplaced kindness. Now let's talk about kindness in the context of giving and charity. This is an area where indiscriminate kindness can be particularly problematic. How many of you have given money to every person who's asked, donated to every cause that's approached you, volunteered for every organization that's needed help? And how many of you have ended up feeling drained, overwhelmed, or even resentful as a result? How many of you have given so much that you've had nothing left for yourself or for the causes you truly care about? This is what happens when we're kind to everyone without discernment. We spread ourselves too thin. We give without strategy or purpose. And in doing so, we actually diminish our capacity to make a real difference. True kindness in giving is about being strategic and intentional. It's about choosing causes that align with your values and where your contributions can have the biggest impact. It's about giving in a way that's sustainable, that doesn't deplete you or leave you resentful. When you stop being kind to everyone, when you start being selective with your giving, you actually increase your capacity to make a real difference. You can focus your resources, your time, your money, your energy on the areas where they can have the greatest impact. You can give more deeply, more meaningfully to the causes that truly matter to you. And here's the beautiful thing, when you do that, when you give with intention and purpose, you inspire others to do the same. You set an example of thoughtful, impactful giving that can create ripples of positive change far beyond your individual contributions. Now, I want to address something that might be concerning some of you. You might be thinking, but Jim, if I am being kind to everyone, won't people think I'm selfish or mean? And to that I say, who cares what they think? What matters is who you are, not what others perceive you to be. You see, when you stop being kind to everyone, you might ruffle some feathers, you might disappoint some people. You might even lose some fair weather friends. But the people who truly matter, the people who truly value you will respect you more. They'll appreciate your authenticity, your integrity, your willingness to stand up for what you believe in. And here's the irony, when you stop trying to be kind to everyone, when you start being true to yourself and your values, you actually become kinder. Not in a superficial, people-pleasing way, but in a deep, meaningful way. You become someone who can be counted on to tell the truth, to stand up for what's right, to make a real difference in the world. Let's talk about kindness in the context of leadership. Whether you're leading a company, a team, or just leading yourself, understanding this principle of selective kindness is crucial. Many people think that being a kind leader means always being nice, always saying yes, always accommodating everyone's wishes. But that's not leadership. That's abdication of responsibility. That's fear disguised as kindness. True kindness in leadership is about making tough decisions for the greater good. It's about holding people accountable. It's about pushing people out of their comfort zone so they can grow and achieve more than they thought possible. Think about the best leader you've ever had. Was it someone who always told you what you wanted to hear? Or was it someone who challenged you, who pushed you, who sometimes told you hard truths that you needed to hear? I'll bet it was the latter. Because that leader, the one who wasn't afraid to be unkind in the moment, was showing you the highest form of kindness. They were believing in your potential. They were respecting you enough to tell you the truth. They were caring enough about your long-term success to risk short-term discomfort. That's the kind of leader the world needs more of. And that's the kind of leader you can become when you stop being kind to everyone and start being kind in a way that truly matters. Now let's talk about kindness in the context of personal development. How many of you have read self-help books, attended seminars, or tried to make positive changes in your life only to fall back into old patterns? And how many times have you been kind to yourself about it, telling yourself it's okay, that you'll do better next time? I'll tell you what that is. It's not kindness. It's complacency. It's settling for less than you're capable of. And it's not just hurting you, it's hurting everyone who could benefit from the best version of you. True kindness in personal development is about holding yourself to high standards. It's about being your own toughest critic and your biggest cheerleader at the same time. It's about pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, facing your fears, and doing the hard work of real growth and change. When you stop being kind to everyone, including yourself, you create space for real transformation. You stop making excuses. You stop settling for mediocrity. You start demanding excellence from yourself. And when you do that, you inspire others to do the same. Think about it. Who's more inspiring? Someone who's always kind to themselves, who never pushes themselves, who's content with staying the same, or someone who's constantly striving, constantly growing, constantly becoming a better version of themselves? The answer is clear. When you stop being kind to everyone, when you start demanding more from yourself, you become a beacon of inspiration for others. You show them what's possible when you refuse to settle, when you commit to constant growth and improvement. Now let's talk about kindness in the context of communication. How many of you have held back from saying what you really think because you didn't want to hurt someone's feelings? How many of you have sugar-coated the truth or avoided difficult conversations in the name of kindness? I'll tell you what that is. It's not kindness, it's cowardice. It's a disservice to yourself and to the other person. Because when you do that, you're denying both of you the opportunity for understanding, for growth, for real connection. True kindness in communication is about honesty. It's about having the courage to say what needs to be said, even when it's difficult. It's about respecting the other person enough to tell them the truth, to share your authentic thoughts and feelings. When you stop being kind to everyone, when you start communicating with honesty and authenticity, you create space for real understanding. You create space for meaningful dialogue. You create space for the kind of deep, genuine connections that we all crave. And here's the beautiful thing: when you communicate with honesty and authenticity, you give others permission to do the same. You create an environment of trust and openness where real growth and connection can happen. Now, I want to address something that might be worrying some of you. You might be thinking, but Jim, if I stop being kind to everyone, won't I become cold or uncaring? And to that I say absolutely not. In fact, the opposite is true. When you stop being kind to everyone, when you start being selective with your kindness, you actually become more caring, because your kindness becomes intentional. It becomes meaningful. It becomes impactful. Think about it. Which is more valuable, a kind word carelessly thrown to everyone you meet, or a thoughtful act of kindness directed at someone who truly needs it? Which is more impactful, superficial niceness that never rocks the boat, or honest feedback that helps someone grow and improve? The answer is clear. When you stop being kind to everyone, you create space for a deeper, more meaningful form of kindness. You create space for kindness that truly makes a difference. Now, let's talk about kindness in the context of time management. How many of you feel like you never have enough time in the day? How many of you are constantly running from one commitment to another, always feeling behind, always feeling stressed? And how many of you are in this situation because you're trying to be kind to everyone? Because you're saying yes to every request, every invitation, every demand on your time? I'll tell you what that is. It's not kindness. It's poor boundaries. It's a lack of respect for your own time and energy. And it's not just hurting you, it's hurting everyone who depends on you, everyone who could benefit from the best version of you. True kindness in time management is about being selective with your commitments. It's about saying no to good things so you can say yes to great things. It's about respecting your time and energy so that you can give your best to the things that truly matter. When you stop being kind to everyone, when you start being intentional with your time, you create space for what's truly important. You create space for deep work, for meaningful relationships, for personal growth and development. And here's the irony: when you do this, when you stop trying to please everyone and start focusing on what truly matters, you actually become more valuable to others. You become more present in your relationships. You become more effective in your work. You become more impactful in your contributions to the world. Now, let's talk about kindness in the context of self-care. How many of you neglect your own needs in the name of being kind to others? How many of you put everyone else's well-being ahead of your own? I'll tell you what that is. It's not kindness, it's martyrdom, and it's not sustainable. Because when you constantly put others ahead of yourself, when you neglect your own needs, you eventually burn out. You run out of energy, out of patience, out of the capacity to truly care for others. True kindness starts with self-care. It starts with recognizing that you can't pour from an empty cup. It starts with understanding that taking care of yourself isn't selfish. It's necessary if you want to be truly kind to others. When you stop being kind to everyone, when you start prioritizing your own well-being, you create space for sustainable kindness. You create space for the kind of deep, genuine care that can truly make a difference in the world. Think about it. Who can be kinder? Someone who's constantly stressed, exhausted, and resentful because they're always putting others first? Or someone who's well rested, energized, and fulfilled because they've taken care of their own needs? The answer is clear. When you stop being kind to everyone, when you start taking care of yourself, you increase your capacity for true kindness. You become more patient, more understanding, more capable of making a real difference in the lives of others. Now let's talk about kindness in the context of personal boundaries. How many of you struggle to set and maintain healthy boundaries? How many of you allow others to cross your boundaries in the name of being kind? I'll tell you what that is. It's not kindness, it's self-disrespect. And it's not just hurting you, it's teaching others that it's okay to disrespect you, to take advantage of you, to treat you as less than you deserve. True kindness involves setting and maintaining healthy boundaries. It involves teaching others how to treat you. It involves respecting yourself enough to say no when something doesn't align with your values or your well-being. When you stop being kind to everyone, when you start setting clear boundaries, you create space for respectful, mutually beneficial relationships. You create space for the kind of deep, authentic connections that are built on mutual respect and understanding. And here's the beautiful thing. When you set healthy boundaries, you give others permission to do the same. You create an environment of mutual respect where everyone's needs and boundaries are honored. Now, I want to address something that might be concerning some of you. You might be thinking, but Jim, if I stop being kind to everyone, won't I miss out on opportunities to help others? And to that, I say not at all. In fact, the opposite is true. When you stop being kind to everyone, when you start being selective with your kindness, you actually increase your capacity to make a real difference. Because your kindness becomes focused, it becomes intentional, it becomes impactful. Think about it. Which is more valuable, spreading yourself thin, trying to help everyone a little bit, or focusing your energy on making a significant difference in a few key areas? Which is more impactful, superficial acts of kindness that don't address root issues, or targeted acts of kindness that create lasting change? The answer is clear. When you stop being kind to everyone, you create space for kindness that truly matters. You create space for kindness that can change lives, that can make a real difference in the world. Now, as we near the end of our time together, I want to leave you with a challenge. I want you to stop being kind to everyone. I want you to start being selective with your kindness. I want you to start valuing yourself, your time, your energy, your resources. I want you to start setting boundaries, saying no, and focusing on what truly matters. It won't be easy. You'll face resistance from others and from yourself. You'll feel uncomfortable. You might even feel guilty times, but I promise you it's worth it. Because when you stop being kind to everyone, you create space for a higher form of kindness. You create space for kindness that's rooted in wisdom and discernment and a genuine desire to make a real difference. Remember, true kindness isn't about pleasing everyone. It's not about avoiding conflict or discomfort. It's about doing what's truly best for yourself and for others. It's about having the courage to be honest, to set boundaries, to hold yourself and others to high standards. It's about respecting yourself enough to say no to what doesn't serve you, so you can say yes to what truly matters. So go forth from here with a new understanding of kindness. Be kind to yourself first. Set clear boundaries. Hold yourself and others to high standards. Be honest even when it's difficult. Focus your energy on what truly matters, and watch as your capacity for real, meaningful kindness grows. Because when you stop being kind to everyone, you create space for kindness that can change the world. You create space for kindness that uplifts, that inspires, that transforms. You create space for kindness that truly makes a difference. And isn't that what we're all here for? To make a difference. To leave this world a little better than we found it. To touch lives in a way that matters. So I challenge you, stop being kind to everyone. Start being kind in a way that truly counts. Start being kind in a way that changes lives, that inspires growth, that creates lasting positive change. The world doesn't need more people who are kind to everyone. The world needs more people who are kind with purpose, with wisdom, with discernment. The world needs more people who understand that true kindness sometimes means being unkind in the moment for the sake of long-term growth and well-being. Be that person. Be the one who's not afraid to speak the truth, to set boundaries, to hold yourself and others to high standards. Be the one who's kind enough to be unkind when it truly matters. Because that's the kind of kindness that changes lives. That's the kind of kindness that transforms the world. That's the kind of kindness that leaves a lasting legacy. So go forth and be kind, but be kind with wisdom, with purpose, with discernment. Be kind in a way that truly matters. Be kind in a way that makes a real difference. Stop being kind to everyone. Start being kind in a way that changes the world. Thank you.